Especially chanting in the morning will be easier than any other time in the day, because in the morning your mind is still very clear and there's not a lot of thoughts rushing in from the different things which happen during the day. So you'll get a great deal out of the chanting if you're able to chant early in the morning, especially when you wake up. But if you can wake up early, that's very helpful. Like if you wake up when it's already 7:30 or 8, it's not as beneficial, because already the lights, there's so much activity going on in the streets, the cars are honking, so many things. But if you can get up real early where it's very peaceful, and as soon as you wash up, if you start to chant, you get a great deal out of that chanting. A great deal. You'll learn a lot of the philosophy just through the chanting. That's something, of course, you have to try, but I wouldn't say that you should, because it's different than the process of learning that we're accustomed to in school, which is an academic process. This is a transcendental process, and there's certain ways to acquire this knowledge. Not only is the knowledge special, but the method for acquiring it is also adopted to this particular type of knowledge. Just like knowledge of the material world, there's methods for which are tailored for gathering that knowledge. But similarly, for gathering spiritual knowledge like you're interested in, there are methods which are tailor-made for getting that knowledge. And one of them is the effect of clearing away all obstacles through the power of chanting mantras. So if you can experiment with that a little bit, you'll find it, I think, very helpful. You can chant in your own room. You don't have, the thing to do when you're chanting is to try to put out all thoughts and just hear the sound of the chanting. If you have a lot of other thoughts and you're thinking about them while you're chanting, it won't be so effective. Chant loudly enough so that it blocks out any thoughts for a while, and try to hear the sound vibration of the chant. Even if you only do it 15 minutes at a time in the beginning, that's all right. But that, if you can do it without a lot of thoughts rushing in, that's what you should aim for. And the way to do it is not to clear your mind and make it blank, but to focus on the sound of the chant. And your mind has to think of something. So think of the sound. Hear the sound. And that'll make it easy for you to clear the mind. Are you eating with the devotees? Are you eating the food of the devotees? Have you got that book, Science of Self-Realization? Do you like it? That's a nice book. When you're working in the temple, there's a lot of noise going on? Construction?
Sometimes it depends what they do.
Maybe they could play tapes. There's no noise. How's the Gurukul? Who's teaching you? Huh? Both of you? Where's your mata? On Sankirtan. She's a real Sankirtan girl. You're also looking forward to becoming a Sankirtan girl? Both of you are? Thanks. Balaram, are you learning English? Very good. What about your mother? Is she also learning English? You're learning more than her. Oh, yes? Oh, I'd love to see that. Now, I find it, how are you doing? Studying? What about the mules on the farm? Are they working yet? Those mules are going to be impossible to deal with now. So long they've been sitting around. Anyway, they look good. Now I'm starting to resign myself to just saying that. This drought has really hurt, huh? Crippled everything. What about Oklahoma? This is pretty unusual, but it may not be. This could become the regular thing. Kali Yuga. You should start to think like that. What would you do if this was a regular affair? Well, that's good for us, but you couldn't irrigate the fields all just with lake water. Or dig a lot of wells. Is that first house under construction?
I think practically halfway finished.
Taking a long time.
Well, it took us a while to start. A lot of things are going on actually. The lake is finished. Big road is on the slope of the lake. The house is being built on the side.
Near the lake. The third party's cooking nice.
Yeah, he's becoming very expert at cooking eggplant.
Wow. You got eggplants there. Is there neem there?
No.
Nothing bitter.
We put neem on. We have neem.
Isn't there some kind of a bitter weed or something? Why don't you mix that with eggplant? You should try that. Fry the two together. Eggplant is already a bitter vegetable, so it's very nice if you mix it with a bitter plant of something. Neem, of course, is very good. Neem beglin. Right, Mr. Ghosh? Kali Krishna, how are you doing there? You've been sick, I heard? Such heat. You look a little thinner. Huh?
Everyone's becoming like Bengalis. Because of the heat.
What? You can't eat that much in that heat. Now, Bhaktiyan, where are you? How do you like it? What do you do then? Very nice place, huh? That's very nice. Very ideal. Radharani, are you in school yet? Why? Are you eager to go to school? Huh? When are you gonna go? How old are you now? Still 4? You've been 4 a long time. I think you must be 5 by now. When's your birthday? You're going to be 5 in September? Then you're going to go to school? What are you going to learn there? What are you going to learn about? What do you think they're going to teach about? What do they usually teach about around here? Krishna. I think you're going to learn all about Krishna when you go to school. You like that? Krishna and Lord Chaitanya? So Nanda, what do you do now that the restaurant is closed? Cooking? Isn't there some good preaching on the shore of the Gulf? What is that place called? Yeah, Galveston. Or not so good. Marco, how are you doing? Chanting rounds? 16 rounds? Why? When do you chant your rounds? Oh, that's the reason. Can't you chant in the morning? What's the problem? Where's your wife? Can you understand English yet? You have to wake your husband up very early. Translate. Who's here to translate? Translate. Tell her she has to wake her husband up very early. Should do that. Where's your sisters? Both of them? Both went to Mexico. Tulsi, how are you? Doing all right? What are you learning about in school? Huh? Penmanship. What are you going to write about? You're going to write your friends about Krishna? Do you ever write letters to each other about Krishna? Where's Arundhati? Are you in school? You like it? What are you learning about? What about Krishna? What is the latest thing you've learned about Krishna? Huh? You're learning the Mahabharata? Who's teaching you? I think I better go to that class also. Is there an empty seat in the class for me to sit there? All of you are in the same class? No. Some are in different. How many classrooms are there? 3. 3? How is Subhadra doing? So who's on Sankirtan now? Which devotees? You're going on Sankirtan? Starting soon. That would be nice. What about Arjun? What does that mean? Why? Right.
They travel a long distance in order to get to a decent location.
Well, one easy way is just to take your wife with you. Where is she? Hiding. If she says that you're away too much, she'll say, that's all right, you can come with me. So you go out some of the time. Who else is going? Kalachandji?
They've been gone for months. Probably since...
Durashaya? Who else? Janga, Jamuna who else? Gauranga? Naranamani? Sanat Kumar? Pretty blissful group. That sounds like where the real nectar is lying. Where are they? Late Sunday. When are we going to have the Vyas Puja? Oh, Monday. Monday's a holiday? No. But the people who work, they can come on Monday? It's possible. Everybody who's got jobs is going to be able to come? What about the Houston householders? They can come Monday. Are they doing nice Sankirtan? What kind of Sankirtan are they doing? Still doing the records. And then? More records. Huh? Definitely. Some other paraphernalia. Let's see how you do there. Whether you'll make it and last. Vrindavan, you're going on Sankirtan? Every
week I go.
Very good. Well, that's very nice. Really? That's a lot of money. So that's an increase. Oh, that's very good. So you think that there'll be no problem at the airport? What will happen if there is a problem? Then what will you do? Is it a plan like that? There should be, though. It should be anticipating what would be done.
We went to the airport and just give out books and just ask for donations and identify ourselves as and we are Hare Krishnas. It's very nice. It's very nice.
You were dressed as devotees?
We had shirts and ties, shirts and ties.
You weren't asking for money?
We asked for whatever donation.
Very mellow.
Of course, if you want to keep the collection at the rate it is now,
also we have was two dormitories, well, alternate, and Linda Gussie, involved
How are you doing in San Catango, Minnetonka? Nice? You like it? Must have some you must make contacts with that job. No? No contacts that you could preach to?
Never really. Mostly.
Why is that?
I don't see the same people very often twice.
Are you going to in the future?
In the future, yeah.
Once you build up the accounts.
Yeah, I have such a big area, I don't see. It's nice.
That's because the beginning. It's just the beginning.
Yeah.
What about that business? Is that still going on?
No.
Really?
He found it to be a little impractical, so I think he's going to come back. We advised him on how we thought he should do it, and then he checked out another way of doing business, but he's realized that we were right, so I think he's going to approach us again.
What's his name?
Chief.
And what's the other boy's name, the Chinese boy?
Mike.
Has he been around?
No, I haven't seen him lately.
I want to see both of them.
Okay.
First you have to talk to me about it, then I want to see them.
All right.
I'll encourage them. How's the treasury going?
I am not from the company, but I have joined in another including the place partnership.
Gotcha. So you're doing Sankirtan coordination now.
Yeah.
And Gopish is doing the treasury. He's not cooking. He wasn't doing so much cooking. Who cooks?
He organizes. Margie.
Where is Ma Dave? He's cooking. Very hard worker, huh? Shagashan, you're still doing the tape ministry?
Yes. I'm also going out and doing basic programs.
Very good.
Trying at least once a week, and I'll try to gradually increase.
He's one of our strongest preachers.
Shagashan?
He's always encouraging in programs now.
Dr. Fred, how are you doing? Nicely, what are you doing?
I'll get to that mostly, except for the last couple of things.
Hard here. It's hard to do it.
No, not really. I go out with Dawn almost. And he's very Krishna conscious.
In Houston? With who?
With Dharma Baba.
Dharma Baba.
Yes.
Chanting your rounds? Reading?
Yes.
How is Paradoya doing? What does he do?
Yeah.
Does he preach outside at all?
They go on.
Yeah, he should preach. He's a good preacher. Enthusiastic preacher. Nancy, what are you doing?
I met two people, friends of my mother's family, they're going to China. And one,
Huh? They go to China?
they're going to China this year,
Why?
just to visit.
To Tourists.
One is originally from, has relative descent. And then
They're Chinese?
one young lady across the street from my mother's house. And then also one couple who works for Hughes is getting transferred there in October. They'll be there for approximately 3 years.
Where?
China. And then
Where are these people?
the family is in Riverside, California. I went out to California.
Oh,
They're friends of friends here.
so you're preaching about China? Is this an indication that you want to go to China also?
I was thinking at least I could give them a book the family can go see, and maybe take it and give it to donate it to the library.
Besides this, what else are you doing?
I've been starting morning type out.
That's nice. Doing Sankirtan?
Up until the weekend here.
Then, huh? No one to go out with?
The following is an evening lecture with His Divine Grace Tamal Krishna Goswami, recorded in Knoxville, Tennessee, October 24th, 1978.
Om Vishnu Bhagwan Jagadvadrakachadasthatala Satashi Shrimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananda Gauri Vaishnavin Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Daita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gogovinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Sri Mathura Dham Ki Sri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Ganga Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Sri Krishna.
All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga.
All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Guru. Namo Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Pandita Rastapara Sata Sri Srimad Divine Grace Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Maharaj Ki Jai Maharaj Ki
All glories to the assembled devotees. Everybody is here today. That's nice. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Over the past few days, we've been lecturing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, text number 1. So, Janmadasya yato nayat itaras chate shabijna sarat Tainhe Brahma Hridaya Adikavahe Muyanti Yat Surdaya Tejavari Medam Yata Vinimayo Yatati Sago Misha Damna Sena Sada Nirashtaku Hakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. O my Lord Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna, because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. So this is as far as we've explained now today. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, just as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. So, sometimes it is seen that water in fire, water in heat, just like on a hot summer day driving down the turnpike, you see like watery vapor coming off. Or on the opposite way, going in the desert, and you see a mirage of water. No water's there. Or you're on the sea. For years and years on end, you're on the sea, and suddenly, you can close that now. That window. Suddenly, out of nowhere, there's an island. No island actually, but you're wanting to see the island, So, we may have some experiences of this, or maybe not, but everyone has certainly heard of a mirage in the desert, and everyone has also heard the experiences of people who go in the sea, and suddenly they think that they're seeing land. But what is the reason? The reason is due to desire. Why is it that a man who's walking in the desert sees water? Because he's desirous. He wants relief from his difficult situation. But of course, it is an illusion, that oasis in the desert. Sometimes there are. So one is suffering so much that he wants relief. So, this is the same situation here in this material world. We are suffering so much that we will imagine or wish or desire for so many things in order to relieve ourselves from this suffering. Just like a hungry donkey always has a carrot held in front of him so that he'll go on and on and on. So in the same way, we're inducing ourselves to carry forward in this material world with so many hopes which are never to be realized. Just like this credit game that Jivananda has been explaining to me. There's another payment to go, And because the whole situation is set up in such a way, the same people, they're advertising in such a way that as soon as you're out of debt to one company, you've already started to want something else, and you immediately go more into debt and more into debt. It's like you were explaining to me, I was asking, what are these Camel lights? I see now all the cigarettes. It's new to me because suddenly I see in the billboards, every cigarette has this light. So Jivananda was explaining that one of his people that he's associated with at work used to smoke 1 pack of cigarettes a day. But now that he's taken up smoking these lights, he smokes 1.5 packs. Because he says he can't get sufficient taste or nicotine content out of the light cigarettes. So this is the same way. Everyone, you think that, well, now I'll get satisfied. But the fact is that the more you engage in sense gratification, the more you want of it. It's like, what is the saying, that pouring ghee on the fire. Pouring ghee on the fire. When you pour ghee on a fire, it only makes the fire blaze more and more and more. You see, if you have the desire for sense gratification, you'll never overcome that desire for sense gratification by feeding it more and more. That's not the system. So, now our position is that we have desired so much sense gratification, and we find ourselves completely absorbed in sense gratification. How to withdraw? Because it is this sense gratification which is causing us to burn in this material world. Burn means we're on fire, suffering within this material world on account of so many desires and the reactions to so many other desires which we've worked on. How do we withdraw out of this situation? Now, this I have tried to explain in the previous few days, that one thing may be to completely stop all of the different types of sense gratification. Just like you'll see, it's like you were saying, one of our friends here, he lives all the way off by himself. You tried to see him today. This means he's fed up with the material society. But you can see he still has nothing better to replace it with. And then that's a negation. He's negated. This material culture that we're in is horrible, it's unnatural, I want to get away. But still, notice how he has to come down from time to time to see all of his friends, to still get a little involved in this nonsense which he's fed up with. Just like I had experience, that before taking to this Krishna consciousness, I was following a very strict diet. Very strict diet called macrobiotic diet. Perhaps some of you have heard of it. Very strict diet. So I was so strict in following this diet that I would only eat grains which were uncooked and nothing else. Maybe a little bit of water I would drink in a day. Very strict, you see. So, but once every month, you see, I would hitchhike into this town and I would get 20 ice creams. Because I wasn't getting any higher taste. It was simply negation, 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 with no positive alternative. In the same way, this young man has gone away, but still he has to come back here. So this is described to be just like the impersonalists. The impersonalists, or Mayavadis, they say this whole world is false. And they say it is all illusion. And their idea is to become one with everything, merge. But because they have, each person is by nature a servant, and because each of us wants by nature to become blissful, and because we're individual personalities ultimately, this idea of everything being illusory or unreal and dropping out of everything, and even their attempt to merge into Brahman ultimately proves unsatisfactory. For failure to achieve the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna into this material world. In other words, they negate this material world. They say that this material world is false. But because they fail to achieve any real platform, therefore they have to come back into this world. It's one thing to say that this is unreal, this is all illusion. Then what is reality? For failure to achieve any real, tangible, loving reality in the spiritual world, they have to fall back down again. Impersonal realization will never be ultimately satisfying. That's why you'll see many big impersonalists, for many years on end, they perform severe austerities. Then they try to come to the point of Brahman realization. But after a while, they come back and they'll open a hospital. Or worse than that, they'll find some woman and live with her. They do like this, these impersonalists. We've seen in India many cases. Mayavadis, they're called. They have no sika. They shave their head clean without any sika. That's one way of telling them. And instead of wearing a tilak this way, they wear the tilak like this. Perhaps you've seen pictures of them. They're always frowning and looking sour most of the time. So, although they say that this world is false, in the end they become very expert enjoyers of this world. Sometimes some gurus will also act like this. Just like there's one guru, he's always seen with 4 or 5 women riding around in a car. So someone asked him, why do you do this? Because don't you know a sannyasi is supposed to be very careful about such association. He said, I have transcended that, and this is the proof of it. Now I can do it because actually it's not the proof at all. Because even when someone has transcended it, as an acharya, they act to show the example. They'll continue to act in a very perfect manner. So, this kind of negation is not satisfactory. Sense gratification, if you want to give it up, you have to get some higher taste. And that higher taste can be taken or gotten as much as you want. There's nothing stopping us from becoming in ecstasy about Krishna consciousness except our own selves. Otherwise, it is there to be had. One can make himself fully Krishna conscious in a very, very short time if he takes seriously the process. Instead of engaging in sense gratification, let us engage our senses in Krishna's satisfaction. Let us sow the seeds of Tulsi in the home and worship Tulsi Devi. Let us have kirtan. Let us cook for Krishna and offer everything to Krishna. Let us read and hear about Krishna. Raise our families in Krishna consciousness. Work for Krishna. Give some part of the fruit of one's labor as he's able to towards Krishna. In this way, let us bring Krishna into our lives. Now you'll say, in the beginning, I have no taste. That is the point. Then make varieties of service, and devotional service. Just like when you sit down to eat at night, when we serve our feast, we don't just serve a big plate of halva, right? Because even though it's very tasty, you want variety. What is that saying? Variety is the spice of life. Huh? Variety is this mother enjoyment. All right, same idea. Variety is the mother enjoyment. Variety is the spice of life. So it's the same thing in devotional service. So we have to make our program. Each one of you has to sit down, husband and wife, or single man, whatever you happen to be. You have to sit down and work out a program where, through a variety of different engagements, you can stay in Krishna consciousness all the time. Just like I told one boy in Bloomington, he's a bus driver. So I told him, he was listening to, his wife had made him tape recordings of, he's a very nice devotee actually. His wife had made him tape recordings of some television show. So I told him, instead of that, start to listen to lectures about Krishna consciousness. So each one of you has to see how you can introduce. Of course, you don't want to go overboard like Jivananda Prabhu did in his last job. He got so engaged in Krishna consciousness that he forgot about his job. So, of course, that is very good. If one can financially arrange in such a way, there's nothing like doing that. That's our goal, you see. Ultimately, our goal is that we want to be so absorbed in Krishna consciousness that everything becomes looked after and we can engage full-time in preaching work. I mean, just consider this point, that what is the population of Knoxville?
Metropolitan area, 400,000.
Say 400,000. 400,000, and at most, here are 10 people who are Krishna conscious. So 10 into 4,000, what is the percentage? Not 1%.
About quarter of a percent. Quarter of a percent.
1 over 40,000.
1 over 40,000. 1/4 of 1%. I don't even know if it's that much. All right, in any case, it's so small that we can hardly figure it out. It's becoming it's hardly there. So, just imagine how much work. Just like now, you're planning a community that we want to move outside because we don't like this non-devotional association. Oh, that's good, but still better is to make everyone devotees. Then you don't have to move. You see? So, agreed that in order to make someone else Krishna conscious, we have to be Krishna conscious. So that begins with a very strong devotional program. Chanting of rounds. Chanting of rounds should be done in a good way. And chanting rounds while driving, that's not bad. One should go on chanting. But really chanting of the rounds, as far as possible, should be done without any other thing going on. And then you'll get the full benefit of the chanting. Chanting rounds and reading, these things will, having class, I've suggested to Jivanana now that not only on Sunday, you can try and, if it's convenient, pick out one day in the week, in the evenings when you can hold, you see, a meeting, so that at least twice a week you can get together. In other words, gradually you should increase. It may be a little inconvenient, no doubt, but then again, the long run, it will be a great convenience. The more you become Krishna conscious, the more you'll find yourself very much blissful and not disturbed by all the anxieties which formerly used to disturb you. So you have to, actually, if you want to get this higher taste, it is there, it is available to you. You simply have to make out the program. You have to chalk out a program where all the time you can be engaged. You, your wife, your children, gradually you have to see how to engage all of yourselves. Even in the beginning, you may not have the taste so much. Therefore, I suggest varieties of different types of activities. Now, 10 people out of 400,000 is not a very big amount. So, we should understand that not only we should think how to save ourselves, but also how to save others. Each one of you now should really I think that this will give you great enthusiasm. There's nothing more enthusing than to see someone else take to Krishna consciousness. Isn't that a fact, you? Have you all felt that? That when someone shows interest, just like your parents came, and by their interest you're becoming more enthusiastic. Just like if you bring someone here and they become very interested, there's nothing more enthusing and nothing more, it makes you believe more and more in Krishna. You see? The more you see others, it also, and it requires your deep understanding of Krishna consciousness to convince someone. So I think now that each one of you should really begin to develop this feeling of wanting to give Krishna consciousness to others. That'll automatically require you to take it for yourself. Because unless you're Krishna conscious, you'll never be able to give Krishna consciousness to someone else. So why not begin? Just like each of you has employment, you're all working, so start to see the people who you meet and see if there's some way that you can begin to interest them in Krishna consciousness. You'll be surprised, just like that gentleman who came, I think it was your associate, that engineer. Very nice man. Must have been to some extent. Has he spoken to you since then?
No.
Is that a bad sign? Or?
He's very quiet.
He is. You can bring him prasadam sometimes, just like your wife, she's cooking very nicely. So sometime you can bring him some cookies which have been offered to Krishna. He has a family? No, he's a single man. So you can bring him some cookies. You can distribute cookies to all the people in the office. You see? In this way you can think how to give Krishna consciousness to other people. And you'd be surprised, Krishna will send people to you. He'll start to send people to you. The next time that I come here, this room should be full of people. So not just that there's 10 of you, that I don't mind. If there's one sincere person, that's sufficient. I can speak for many hours and be very happy. But it'll make me still happier, and it'll make everybody here still happy. It'll make Krishna happy if he sees this room full of people, you see, who have been interested in Krishna consciousness. You never know, there may be some great devotees waiting to hear about Krishna in the city of Knoxville. We simply have to distribute this Krishna consciousness and see what Lord Chaitanya has in mind. So, as long as I still have so many unfulfilled desires, then I have the tendency to fall down. Because somehow I have to find out what all of my desires are within me and see how they can be purified within Krishna consciousness. There's no use keeping some material desires lurking. But unless I develop a higher taste, these material desires will get the better of me. Therefore, this chanting is very much required. Chanting very sincerely. This purifies the heart of all kinds of dust which is accumulated for long, long years on end. So illusion is there. Illusory world is there. My belief in this illusory world is there. My belief that simply by arranging a nice house, a nice family, we all had these things, but they weren't making us happy. Everyone sitting here had nice house, nice car, nice family, and still something was missing. So what is that missing element? That missing element is Krishna, and you should understand that when without Krishna, it should come to this point, without Krishna you cannot enjoy. A devotee feels like that. If there's no, just like in a conversation, if the conversation is not about Krishna, a devotee loses interest. If the food is not offered to Krishna, he cannot eat it properly. If he's associating with non-devotees, he feels a bit uncomfortable. This should begin to develop within us, you see, so that actually we become more and more eager for Krishna consciousness. The materialists, their illusion. Here it's mentioned that Krishna is such an expert personality that even the great sages and demigods, they sometimes become bewildered. And what is the most bewildering factor? Sex life. Sex life is so bewildering that even big demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, sometimes they become bewildered. What to speak of ordinary people? Therefore, we have to be very careful about this sex life. It is the principle which is binding us here within this material world. Eventually, one should understand that there is pure sex life in the spiritual world. Krishna is manifesting pure sex life with his loving associates, the gopis. But this is a far cry from the sex life of this material world. Now, the same sex desire is manifested within the living entity through this body. Very imperfect manifestation. So, this sex life, it is very much bewildering. One who engages overly in it, he cannot have any ability to become advanced spiritually, because his mind is fixed on all of the basic bodily enjoyments. So we have to be very careful. A man associating with a woman should associate on the basis of serving Krishna. Otherwise, don't arrange your situation in such a way where it facilitates the chance of too much sex life taking over. It's described as one who enjoys illicit sex, he cannot become clean. Cleanliness is part of devotion. Unless one is clean all the time, inside and out, how can he be a devotee? How can he deal with the deity? How can he cook and offer to the deity? But illicit sex makes one immediately become muchi, or unclean. So this principle should be strictly observed, that I limit sex life only to sex life within religious principles. Then it doesn't become illusion. One who understands that the purpose of sex life will bring is like a brahmachari. They're called brahmachari grihastas. Brahmachari grihasta. Grihasta brahmacharis. Because they're only having sex life only for the purpose of procreating children. Therefore, it is just as good. Actually, the statement is given that a husband and wife should only have a child with the permission of the spiritual master. In other words, the marriage should be such a thing that one sees everything as being the mercy of Krishna. This is an injunction in the scriptures that a disciple, he only acts on the order of his spiritual master. So you may say, then where is privacy? But actually, the most private of all feelings is one's love for Krishna. You see? And that love is always developed through the spiritual master. Therefore, the spiritual master comes, and actually, he's the most dear friend one has. because he's not coming with any kind of motive in his heart. Even husband and wife, there's so many different motives, but the guru has no motive. You see, but on account of sex desire, sometimes we find husband and wife is more dear than guru. Of course, that affection develops gradually, but one has to come to the realization ultimately that Krishna is my most dear friend, more dear than anyone else. Such a person who comes to that, then he can keep his family life intact. If he doesn't come to that understanding, eventually family life will not be a binding factor. That is the understanding which can unite the whole world. Why just one family? It can unite the whole world, that Krishna is foremost within our life. So, one has to overcome this illusory representation of this material world and not become affected by it. I should always understand that this material world is changing constantly. The forms that I see outside, just like now, the leaves are falling off the tree. So in the same way, this body is changing. Everything here is in a state of flux. Ashashatam, it's temporary. Therefore, I should not put my faith on these changing objects of this world. Rather, I should put my entire attention into that thing which never changes. And just like Krishna, you never see a picture of Krishna growing old. Would you ever see a picture of Krishna with a long beard? Even on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was a great-grandfather, but he has no long beard. He's a young youth, and Arjuna is showing much older. But Krishna never gets old. He's eternal. So we have to attend to this eternal personality and not invest so much faith in this illusory, temporary situation. Only because of Krishna, manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon Him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. So Maya cannot enter into the spiritual world. Maya is the illusory representation, and she has no place in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, everything is eternal and permanent. Just like now we have this soul, but our soul has manifested because of our consciousness. It has manifested a material body. The symptom of the soul is consciousness, and our consciousness has become mixed with material energy. Just like water falling from the sky is pure, but it touches the ground and gets muddied. Now our consciousness is materialized. Therefore, we have manifested this material body. In the same way, when you free your consciousness from matter, when you again mix it with spiritual life, the spiritual world, and there's no difference, oil and water. The two of them don't mix together. The soul is like oil. This body is like water. They don't mix. They're of different nature. But you mix the oil with oil, then it will become harmonious. So similarly, you have to mix your spiritual soul with spiritual life and spiritual activities. And eventually you'll find yourself in the spiritual world where everything is at harmony. The nature of the soul is to be eternal, full of love, full of knowledge, full of bliss. But this material world has opposite qualities. Therefore, don't expect from it eternity, knowledge, and bliss. We might as well get this clearly in our mind. You have to become thoroughly convinced that it is not happy to be here in this material world. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, this material world is no fit place for a gentleman to live. Now, we're not living. This is not the material world. I don't say that association with devotees is material. But I say that you should completely understand that all of your friends, relatives, associates of any kind who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, their association cannot make you happy. And the type of enjoyments which they're participating in will not make you happy. One should become thoroughly convinced of this. Give to let us know that this is a false promise that Maya is offering. Just like that made of glass. They're not the real thing. This is all a perverted reflection. So we want reality. Just like your mother was saying, that I have never seen so much loving feelings exchanged between people in my church as I've seen here. And she's been attending that church for 40 years or more. So someone can see this is real feelings, genuine feelings. Now, in the spiritual world, it's mentioned that the modes of nature cannot act there, and Krishna is present. He's eternally existent in this transcendental abode. So Krishna is eternally present in the spiritual world, but he's very kind, because wherever you serve him, Krishna is also present. Can you say that Krishna is not present right now? Do we not feel ourselves Krishna conscious? If Krishna was not present, how is it? Just like when we're chanting now. Well, you're chanting all so nicely. Your chanting is so nice. Can you not feel Krishna present? Don't we all feel ecstatic while we're chanting? You see, that's the presence of Krishna. Just like when we eat prasada, we're all laughing and talking, we're very happy, because Krishna is present within that prasada. It's like this. If I start talking about the, migration of the such and such birds from Canada down, how long will you hear? If I start talking about the local city politics, it'll be horrible. It'll be like garbage. Therefore, this kind of subject matter is said to be for the swans. The swans are very good birds. If you give a swan some milk mixed with water, they have the ability to suck out the milk and leave aside the water. The swan is such a wonderful bird. So we have to be like that. We have to go through life and only take what is Krishna conscious and just reject the rest. But the crows, that is another type of bird of another feather. The crows, their whole business is where's the rejected, where's the waste products. It's like I always say, that sitting on the Calcutta temple balcony sometimes, if you spit from there on our temple in Calcutta, before the spit hits the ground, the crow will come and eat it. They're so expert. They're looking for anything that comes out of the body as a waste product that they want. So this is described to be like people who are interested in hearing mundane literature. They're said to be crows. There's a picture, maybe you've seen, of a bunch of some mundane sex books. The men are reading the books, they're all in this pornographic shop. There's so many pornographic shops. And then right above there's a picture of a bunch of crows eating out of a garbage can. And then there's another picture of devotees sitting like we're sitting, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and right next to that is a picture of swans taking pleasure in swimming in the nice, cool waters with lotus flowers everywhere. So this is the type of association. Just like you've seen in the magazine, one time we had the swan-like man. There was a picture of Prabhupada and another picture superimposed of a swan, right? So, this is the type of persons that we want to become like. You see, we want to take pleasure in getting the nectar. And we want to reject the unwanted things of this material world. So, for such a person who's able to do that, Krishna becomes very easily available. Krishna will become present within your home. Krishna will become present within your life when you purify yourself. And Krishna is called Pavitram. It means supremely pure. So unless you're in a completely pure condition, how do you expect Krishna to come? Just like before I came here, probably everybody was engaged in cleaning a little bit. Because you're thinking the spiritual master is pure, therefore that place should be made clean. It's the same idea. Krishna will only come when your heart is clean and pure. And depending upon the degree of cleaning of your heart, that is how much you'll be able